Hi everyone, I hope you're good guy. Welcome to a new video. Today is the part 2 of the explanation of my Industrial Hard Techno template. If you have missed the past one, I really recommend go to check it out because I explain every element in detail. Today we're gonna talk more about the arrangement, the mixing and mastering. So all of these templates I've been creating during my live stream session, so you can basically go to check and see how the track has been created from scratch. And yeah, let's have a listen and jump into it. So the tracks sound like this. So you get the idea? Yeah, here basically the main idea of the global arrangement was to have something which have some changement almost every 8 bar or so, and accentuating the variation on the drum, percussion, and having something as well very progressive. I didn't really want it like something like chorus, verse, etc. Alright, so let's start with the intro. Intro start with the kick, the click, and you have the ambience playing and some SFX at the beginning, and you have a low cut as well. So here on the mixdown, you can see if I press A, I have automation of the toggle on off. That's how it starts. Some SFX. Then come the close hi-hat. You can hear the ambience a bit more as well. After 16 bar, I remove the low cut and start the kick, and you have as well this percussion coming a bit before. Here you have your open hats coming as well. Then come the synth one, and you have as well the midis, which is coming gradually. See, the cutoff doesn't move, but you have an EQ where I automate the filter. From the first break. So yeah, here the idea is the intro. We introduce slowly the main lead, then we have a short break where we open even more the main lead, the cutoff, and bring even more tension. Then after we drop, we remove the low cut and we add some ride here, extra ride, so extra energy. I didn't want it a long break as first, you know, I need to keep things going and keep the energy basically. You don't want to have a too long break, so that's why it's like this. Filter opening, then the ride goes on, then some variation with the filter of the lead. So extra drum here, I add a clap which is playing offbeat, and I have as well, I have a second ride playing, so that's what brings new. Add an extra energy. So here I have a short low cut as well again. Before, what I've called the bridge was kind of to take a break a little bit from the main melody, just before we introduce the same melody but with the second lead. So that's why I call it bridge, but it's like, yeah, it's kind of a verse bridge. It's just to take a break. So getting rid all of the drum and the main element. The ambient synth is playing louder as well, and you keep this and this. Oh, sorry. Then I have a break where I introduce this perk loop, which is like the flangery perk loop, which means like it's gonna be like now the verse. Basically, how I see the thing is what I've called chorus is all the time I have my main lead melody playing, and the verse is like where it's more like the percussive part where you don't have melody but you have more like a percussive lead basically, and then the bridge is like usually just for the transition. So that's how I see the project. Bring back the perk. So here you can see like here it's even changing every 4 bar. It's not even every 8 bar, it's every 4 bar. Always keep things changing, keep things moving to keep the interest in the listener. And here you can see I've done a little bit of changement here on the kick pattern, as you can hear. Right here, this kick it's playing just right before where it should be there, and you have one as well which is playing off beat where it shouldn't be, so it gets these. So yeah. And yeah, so then it's the break 3. This is kind of the main break where we're gonna introduce the second lead, basically playing the same melody but with a different scent. And here, to keep things interesting, what I've done with this main lead, you can see it's playing the same octave. It's like all the time the same, but what I've done is I've automated this pitch device, which is -12. So if you check automation, you can see that it's on. So the first part here, you see on this chorus 2, it will play at a pitch down than usual. So the break starts first with the low cut, sorry. I've been getting rid of all of the drums and perk. I just keep this one. Ambience are still playing. And then after the second part of the break, I usually like to split my break into, you know, you have the first part, or you still have a lot of elements, but you can start to get rid of. Usually I like to sort it out my break like this. For example, when I start the break, I get rid of almost 50% of my drums and percussion. And then there is the first part of the break where I will keep some of the percussion element, but that I will then remove in the second part of the break to have really just the synth or the main element in the second part of the break. This way you get a bigger impact when you drop after your sound. So that's what I've done here. You can see I have the drums here, then I have less drum and perk here, and then finally I have just the synth, and then I drop. So it sounds like this. Beat coming, you can see opening the filter, bringing some tension. And so here I've done something interesting with the modulation. I've modulated the sync basically of the synth. It's basically the macro, but it's assigned to oscillator 1 and 2. And basically it's kind of pitching a little bit the sound in a certain way. That's nice to add variation. And here I use the thing here, but then after I just use like the normal transposition. So here I have my notes which are transposed 1 octave upper, like kind of at the end of the loop. Basically you can see it's not a classic 4 or 8 or 16 bar loop. It's kind of something like between basically like 5.5 length. So when it's dropped, you can see you have full-on drums except the right 2. You don't have perk, but yeah, other than that. Then here, as you can see, I add the clap, and I also add some percussion, obviously. Synth 1 is back as well. Some drum variation with the kick. This kind of beat repeat variation with the kick like I've done here as well, just to add a bit of changement. And so here I have a break 4. It's just before the chorus 3. I call it chorus 3 because here then, like I said before, I get rid of the pitch down, an octave down. So it's kind of now playing a higher melody. Alright, rather than that. and that's why there is this break to introduce this new variation. So you can see I get rid of the clap and I keep the rest, but then when I'm drop, I will get rid of everything, all the drums and all the percussion. And you can see there is some variation with the sync here as well again, and you're gonna see it's pitching and it's kind of adding nice variation. So here, instead of transposing manually like this with the note, what I've done is I've used the sync because it's kind of getting a different flavor. So it sounds like this as overall. Notice how I have a lot of short break as well. It's just like just before to have a new variation or a new element coming or being removed. Just a short low cut, just like to, I don't know, it just works well and keeps things coming, keeps things interesting and running. Then come the drums, come the perk as well. And then after come the clap playing in the same time on the kick, and come the second ride as well, which is giving a bit more energy. So this time I've done different than in the first one. You remember in the first times it was playing like offbeat. This time it's playing in the same time on the kick. Again, just depending of the moment of the track, what energy you want as well, you have to choose where you want to put your clap, if you want it offbeat or in the same time. It was working well in the same time. So really add this extra hitting hard effect basically. And again, in terms of, you can see here the modulation, so you have the sync, which is creating this pitching, and then after you always have the filter, which is being modulated as well. And then we go to the final break. Again, here same techniques. I get rid of some of the drums, not all, but a part. You know, here I get rid of the ride. Get rid of the clap. What I've done is I've reintroduced the perk loop. Like this, I'm gonna have it a bit for the outro as well. This is something I like to do because the outro usually they are pretty boring, and I like to keep one interesting element at least as the beginning of the part of my outro, like this, keeping things interesting even if it's the outro, you know. So basically that's the perk loop that I use for the verse that I'm putting again for the outro. So it's a kind of an outro slash verse slash bridge, I don't know, call it how you want, but see, even though the outro is still running fast. And then classic with the outro, you slowly every 8 bars start to get rid of all of your element, the hat slowly, the percussion, you send. So I'm not gonna play all because it's kind of boring, but yeah, you get the idea. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the arrangement. And we can talk quickly about automation, variation. What I've done, for example, in the break, I forgot to mention, I have here what I've called send mix down. I explained in the first video why I have this mix down, but you can see here I have a send to the return, and it's kind of helping like the SFX. Basically, it's kind of a washout effect, but it's on the return. And basically what I'm doing, I'm sending my whole track into a return, and in this return there is this washout effect, and then after I take everything back together into the mix down, and yeah, it's so that's return track is great. This is a rack from Make Transition. I will put the link in the description. It's a very simple rack but very effective, and it's just a reverb basically, but the parameters are set perfectly for that and it works like a treat. That's what I've used for all of the break and the transition. It helps. You can see I have minus clap SFX as well, which are playing all the time. You have a low cut. Basically all this low cut here, it's this automation is the automation of my EQ here. So it's the low cut. Basically it's every time you have a break, instead of removing the bass, I just put a low cut because like this you don't lose too much energy, you get things going. And you see every time I have this, I have SFX and I have like automation. So yeah, just SFX to help the transition, and that's what I've done here among the automation. Then like I said, in terms of modulation, I explained already in the Saint main 2 how I've done it. And that's pretty much it. There is the scent low as well here where I've modulate the filter. You can see it's more or less always the same pattern, but it's and it's gonna kind of allow you to bring it more your ambience in the front and then bring it back in the back, in the front, in the back, and that's what is creating the modulation. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the automation, so to speak. After it's like more like drum variation as well, but that I explained it already in the first video and a bit here as well. And yeah, there is no much modulation, mainly because you have a lot of changement. You can see like here basically every time the color changes, that means there is a variation in the track. So you can see like things change pretty fast all the time. So that's why you don't need to have like too crazy. It's not like a hypnotic track where you have the same element evolving a lot. Here it was more about like having things, a lot of elements changing, coming, removing all the time. Let's dig into the mixing. As usual, like I said, I like to more or less mix as I produce. The thing is, I always use the 4 main devices to kind of mix every track. I have usually saturation or distortion, usually to make things a bit louder or add a bit of character. Then I have an EQ to remove frequency I don't like and boost the one I like. And then I put delay either to kind of add a bit of rhythm or just put a little bit of space. And I use reverb as well, just to put the element in the space. And on top of that, I have 2 as well. I use actually sidechain compression. Every time you will see a compressor, it will be like for sidechain or just to pumping the effect and to leave space for the kick and add a bit of groove as well with this pumping effect to your track. And the other one is a stereo with effect. Basically, I use a delay that I use as a hash effect. So if you want to find out more about hash effects, just Google it. There is plenty of video about that. Yeah, let's have a look. Just usually EQ. I think I explained in the first video why I EQ like this. But as you can see, it's all the time getting rid of frequency I don't like, sidechain, like I said. Saturation, EQ, saturation, compression, delay, reverb. You're gonna see this. So then after how I set the delay, this is really depends of the MIDI pattern you have. Obviously the delay time, if you have something more staccato or if you have something more where the notes are more like dispersed, you're gonna have a different kind of delay than if you have like a kind of 16 close hat pattern, for example. I always try to have the dry rate around 30% and the feedback around 30%. Most of the time that's the parameter I use. And the reverb, I always use my default reverb, and I just play with the decay time and the dry wet. Again, usually the dry wet is around 30%, and the decay time, if it's drums, I will usually stay under 2 seconds. Most of the time it's even like 1 second or even under 1 second, depends what you are looking for. But yeah, for example, here for the hats, you can see again I have EQ'd and I have a reverb. So here I have a reverb for each element. That's the way I like to do, because for example, let's say I want the close hat to be in the small room, but I want my open hats to be like more in the large bright room, you know. I cannot do that with just one reverb. So that's why I use for each hat, I use is on reverb. Even if sometimes they are the same, it doesn't matter. It's easier for me, quicker. Just drop the reverb. If I want short reverb, I use short decay. If I want long reverb, I use a decay a bit longer. Again, I get rid of the frequency I don't like here, and I boost always like kind of, I would say, like the key frequency, like, you know, the one who's gonna help the sound stand out in the mix. You see here, it's what I've done here as well. I cut here and I boost this one here because I found that that's what making the sound really cut through the mix. Sidechain compression, so this is stereo. That's what I was telling you about the hash effect. That's definitely what it is. See here in the center, and then you got the impression is in the left and right. I mean, it is in the left and right. And right with the same. So the right, the EQ here, you have this is resonant frequency. So you often have kind of resonant frequency, especially with this kind of 909 right. And you just have to bring it down. And yeah, just cut the frequency. I don't need boost. Bit of reverb. So you see here for the right, the decay time is way much longer and the dry rate is way much longer, because right, I like to have them a little bit like kind of wash out, you know, like very wet basically, like very noisy and in a big space. It usually work well with right, and again stereo sidechain. So that's gonna be that for all of the things. Here again, I get rid of this nasty frequency. Can hear how annoying it is. There is probably more, but as well, one thing is usually when you remove this frequency, it's kind of removing a bit of the character of the ride, so that can be annoying. So maybe don't be that much drastic, and maybe just remove 6 GB or something like this. Don't do too much, because if you remove too much, like I said, you lose the character. And here the reverb again is long with a long dry wet, and stereo again, and sidechain exactly the same kind of process. Clap, again EQ, just remove the low frequency. I don't need boost here because I found that was the nice frequency, like the sweet frequency of the class. So, and again the reverb like this. Oh, let me actually remove that. Perk loop, again EQ, I boost the frequency, sidechain. And then you have this perk. So here the EQ was more like a sound design purpose, was like to get this kind of speaker effect and this kind of sounding industrial with a very long reverb. Again, reverb, it depends what you're looking for. Here I wanted to put my percussion in the kind of a warehouse kind of space or stuff like that. So way much more gyrate and decay than as I will do as usual. Here again I have my ambience, and what I've got EQ, saturation, delay, reverb, sidechain, and stereo with like the full combo. You can see feedback 30%. Here you don't have dry wet, but it was probably more or less what I was aiming for. Again, the same. It's no point to spend too much time because yeah, that's such a EQ. Like you can see, I'm not lying when I'm here. It's just sidechain compression or even EQ. I should have EQ maybe, but and yeah. For example, you see here the delay is not really a mixing purpose. It's not like, it's just like a kind of a sound design effect to give rhythm to the pattern. But then after, how you set the filter, how you set the delay time, it really depends on your pattern. It's really depends on what you are looking for as well. So there is no really rule I can say like, oh, do like this or do like that. Because just, yeah, what I can recommend is avoid to have too long feedback, because the longer you have the feedback, the more signal is going to be added, because basically your delay is going to make you sound longer and it's going to superpose to your dry signal even more. It can get messy. This is something, yes, as well with the delay. Even if you use the filter delay, it's nice sometimes to filter your delay, because not all the time you need to have the whole signal to be delayed. Sometimes if you filter it, it's work as well, and it leaves space for the rest of the element of your track. So that can be interesting as well. Sometimes trying to filter your delay to just save space in your mix, because delay and reverb is the best element to kind of get your mix messy, obviously. Again, EQ, delay, and the reverb, and then there is nothing else here, and it's I explain. All right, and that's pretty much it for all of the mixing tips, let's say, I could give you. Okay, so let's jump into the master now. I will always recommend you to master your track by someone different than yourself, mainly by a professional master. But obviously it's good sometimes to have a bit of knowledge in mastering. Like this, you can kind of have an idea, rough idea how your sound will sound once mastered. What I will mainly aim is for stereo and clarity and loudness. That's what I like to call my homemade mastering. So I usually start with a EQ, and here I boost the low up. I need to pick up where it's very busy, somewhere here. Control L to loop. So I will usually cut at 20 Hz, but here I didn't cut because I didn't like how it was sounding. So a bit of boost here. It's very light and it's nothing crazy. Here it's just to remove a bit of muddiness. So I didn't really like the frequency around here. 3 kHz. Usually I like to boost as well. But yeah, and then after just kind of get rid of the very unnecessary high frequency. So it's hard to, for example, to hear like one by one what it does, but when I bypass on and off, you can off. Can feel it's a bit more balanced. Then you have glue compressor. So this I always use the same setting, and just like to kind of glue everything. And then usually what I do, it's the threshold is like this. And I always aim for 2 or 3 dB of reduction, something like this, nothing much. And then after I compensate a bit with the makeup gain. Again, it's not crazy things. Always I'm gentle with my master. This add a bit more saturator because mainly make things louder, add a bit more harmonics to your overall mix. Just be gentle with that as well. And then I have mid-side EQ. So the reason why I had a mid-side EQ, because I really wanted to put more the ambience on the side and more the main lead in the middle. So that's what I've done here on the side. You see you have like and the hats as well, because you have the thing is on your stereo, because where I put the house effects is on the ambience and on the right. So that's why I put more or less where my ambience are here and there on my right. So that's why I put here, I boost a little bit the stereo here, and I think here, yeah, I haven't touched. And then for the middle, I've just put here, which is where is my main lead here, this one. So yeah, kind of it's not again a big difference, but yeah, putting more in the center the lead and more on the side, accentuating the side for the ambience and the right. So here I've used utility. So usually this I use it at the beginning of the chain, but here I use it at the end because I use the mid-side EQ. So just to make the bass in mono, everything under 130 Hz in mono, and I boost a little bit the width, but not sure if it's... This again is very subtle. And then I add color limiter. So this is like a Max for Live device, but it's available for free as well. And it's just like adding a bit of saturation, of coloration rather than a normal limiter. Add a bit of warmth, let's say. And then limiter just for loudness. And yeah, we have our whole track mastered. Yeah, I think that's it for today's guide. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you like. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The project is available, link in the description. It's a great way to support me. And see you soon, guys. Bye bye.